Hello and welcome to the Dark Mount video review for Transformers 4 Age of Extinction Generations Evasion Mode Optimus Prime. So this figure is a flat-nosed truck, which is based on presumably the mode he kind of takes while he's in hiding in the beginning of the new movie. It looks like he has this mode before reformatting into the new Western Star Western Star mode that I did a video on for the Leader Class Prime. And this is obviously meant to homage his G1 self. So, here's G1, and here's the new figure. So you can see they got it pretty much spot on, man. It's very impressive what they were able to do, especially once you see how it transforms and how it kind of keeps a hold of the movie Prime aesthetic with the more G1 alt mode. They did a really good job, and please pardon my G1 figure, obviously it's busted. This thing was my sister's and then mine, so it got a fair amount of use. The only, I guess, kind of crappy part about his alt mode is the giant kind of hole gappiness in the back here. It's not super apparent from, like, most angles until you get to, like, here. So, I mean, unless you're looking at it from behind, it's really not that bad. But it is kind of lame. The other complaint that I have is that this center part here does not really line up very well. And you'll see how it kind of flips around during... Whoops, that's not good. You'll see how it kind of flips around during transformation. This whole part kind of flaps up and swings back around, and then kind of flaps forward and hooks in here. But it never lines up quite perfectly, quite the way you'd want it to. Which is a little frustrating, because it would be pretty much a perfect alt mode otherwise. That is really the only thing that I find to be a visual detractor. Yep. So you saw him with G1 Prime. Here he is with Drift from the new film, who is a Bugatti. I love saying that word. I don't know why. Here he is with a couple older movie figures. Here he is with the Dark of the Moon Deluxe Class Ratchet. So you can see they are roughly the same size. He's got a little bit of length on Ratchet. Here he is with the original 2007 Voyager Ratchet. So he's not an especially huge truck mode, but he's also not super tiny. He's definitely a pretty solid Voyager class figure. He doesn't necessarily scale super great with the other figures in the line, which is a little unfortunate, but he also doesn't scale horribly with them. Alright, to get into transformation, what you're going to want to do first is just come around here. Well, first you probably want to fold up this smokestack, and then pop these out like that. Then come under here, and you're going to want to pop the two wheels out. They kind of tab into these red things right here, so just pop them out so you free those tabs up. And then you basically just want to pop this part out of the center right here, and just kind of pull that out of the way. And then you can raise these two little things up, which you will see are the arms. And what you want to do is get this thing kind of out and around so it's not blocking you. And you want to angle these things as far as they will go forward like that. And then you can come over to the sides here and kind of pull the two side panels away, which will separate from this whole part. And again, you can kind of just pull this down so it's out of your way. And then what you're going to want to do is, again, make sure this part is clear. You're going to swing this entire section around on an angle. And you're just going to make sure it clears everything, and it will flip up and around like that. Do that again on the other side. Take this entire thing, flip it around like that. After you are done with that, we're going to want to pull this section out here. It will have been tabbed into the back of the crotch piece right there on that little tab. So you're just going to pull that forward, which will allow you to swing the legs down, and weirdly enough, not rotate them. Having a hard time remembering like an Optimus figure basically since G1 that you didn't have to rotate his legs around. It's craziness. Absolute craziness. And you can split his legs, and this whole chunk right here is part of his foot, so you can just pull that whole thing down like that. Again, on the other side, take the foot, pull that whole assembly down, which will create his legs, and you can pop out his little knee bits like that. And there you have his legs all formed up. Now what you want to do is kind of pull the arms out of your way, basically. And then you want to take this part right here, and that's going to fold in, and you'll see there are two tabs here and there, and they slot in on the sides there. So slot that in like that. You want to fold this piece out, and then fold this whole thing around the head like that. And then take this little middle section here and fold that down. And that will just kind of find a little slot in there. It's going to lock in a little bit later. Well, it's going to lock in right now. So there's a tab on either side here, and you want to fit them into the tabs right here and there. You might need to press this down a little bit. Once you have those all slotted in, you just want to take these two little side bits, and they are going to push into the chest like that, and lock the whole thing together. So then these are locked in place, the head is locked in place, etc. And you want to take these two little tabs right here, and they fold down like that. And then, basically, you just want to straighten the arms up and rotate the hands. You don't technically have to rotate these hands for transformation, but that little tiny bit that the thumb sticks up sometimes does cause the alt mode not to tab in quite as well as it could. So I usually rotate them so they're, the fingers are facing upwards. But again, that is completely optional and up to you. The arms are a little weird on this figure. Since they're made from kind of the front and top of the truck like that, the actual arm angle is kind of molded to be at an angle like that. You can straighten the arm, but this part won't move, so it kind of leaves it looking a little strange. Then again, it is a giant robot that transforms, so I don't need it to have perfectly human proportions and looks and stuff like that. But there you have Evasion mode Optimus Prime in all of his G1 glory. For some reason my camera does not want to point upwards right now. There we go. And this figure is pretty awesome. I really don't have much to complain about here. There definitely are a couple things, but it's really nothing that detracts substantially from the figure or my enjoyment. He is a little lacking in the color department, but that is really just because Takara kind of went with a more movie-inspired tone. They have kind of red painted up here. These and these are silver painted. The feet and hands are silver. There's some blue and yellow and stuff up in here. This thing right here is blue. There might be other stuff. I think these little pads right here are also painted. Basically, they picked out a lot of details, whereas Hasbro went with a much more just monotone blue and red. Well, that's like two tones, but went with simple just blue and red for mostly everything except small details that they left in silver. And the feet here, they actually painted blue. This is gray plastic, so who knows. But I believe the main reasoning for that, and again, pardon my Prime because he is all kinds of busted, I believe the main reasoning behind that is that they were trying to stick as close to G1 accuracy in color as they possibly could. This guy didn't have a whole lot of stuff going on. He was pretty much just the silver in the legs and the red and the blue. And if you look at this, if you just take everything on here that's chromed and replace it with silver, they're pretty much the exact same color scheme. The only thing that I really, really wish they had done is just painted these two little smokestacks and these two little side things silver. That is the only thing that I really care about being missing on this figure, because I do think it follows the G1 color scheme very, very well, so I don't need all the other little embellishments everywhere. That's just me, but, you know, whatever. So here he is with G1 Prime, obviously, for a G1 size comparison. I'm not sure why he's leaning backwards so much right now. That's not normally a problem I have with this figure. Here he is with Voyager Grimlock. So you can see they have a pretty similar amount of mass. I think Grimlock definitely does have a little bit more plastic, but he calls for it, to be honest. Prime doesn't really need it. And here he is next to Dark of the Moon, Voyager Megatron, which brings us to Prime's weapon. Now, Evasion Mode Optimus Prime comes with a weapon you may recognize as being Megatron's shotgun from Dark of the Moon that Optimus uses to, spoiler, shoot Sentinel Prime in the face. That's pretty cool because we never actually got this for Megatron. And interestingly enough, while Optimus can hold this, and he holds it kind of at the very tip of the handle, which looks really bizarre, there is also two small tabs on this weapon that are not used at all for Prime. And looky here, what is this? A tab slot on Megatron's hand that allows him to wield the Shotgun of Doom. My Megatron arm joints are bizarrely loose for some reason. I'm not really sure why that is. So, sorry. But yeah, basically, they produced an add-on kit for Megatron that is official. Awesome. I don't know who managed to sneak that past administration at Hasbro, but they actually did something cool. Who knew? Also, why is this guy so floppy all of a sudden? He's getting floppy. He's getting floppy in his old age, guys. Floppy. Mega flop. So, aside from the fact that I really wish we got this guy in a leader version like everyone else does, this is a really cool add-on. So I'm pretty thrilled with that, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, past this review is staying with Megatron. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm probably going to pick up like a G1 Ion Blaster or something, or just find a really iconic looking Ion Blaster, kind of like the one the Masterpiece Prime came with and give that to this guy, assuming I can get the peg to work, because this this is too cool not to just... This needs to live with Megatron. It just does. Yep. So, Megatron has a shotgun now, which is pretty snazzy. For articulation, his head is on a pretty expressive system of joints. It's not a ball joint. I don't think it is, at least. I'm pretty sure it's just a couple swivels in there. It's kind of hard to see inside of his head, so I might be wrong. But you've got some neck articulation here, and you've got some head articulation. But his chin cannot scoot past these little... Well, you have to move his head all the way forward like that to get it to scoot past these little smokestacks here. So you can get his head all the way around, but it looks a little unnatural. He has lightly ratcheted shoulders with full rotation. You don't get that much motion out of them. You have an upper arm swivel that is very tight on my figure, and then you have the relatively expressive elbow joint that goes from here all the way up to there. And like I said, it's kind of molded to be at an angle right here. You do have waist rotation, even though it is not used in transformation at all, which is pretty awesome. These little wheels here are articulated. I have an issue with one of mine where it's very loose and it doesn't stay up all the way. So it is from about here to there. It's very loose, and then for the rest of the way it's much tighter. But I always have to kind of let this one fall where it's going to, and then move this one out to match it. But that's really not that big of a deal. I'm not going to cry over that. These little knee pads are articulated. You have pretty good bend in the knee. You even get some forward knee movement. And you have this little area right here for transformation. And then he has a decent range of movement on the foot. Not the best I've ever seen, but I mean it's good. So this guy is definitely pretty posable. There's not a whole lot of... Oh wait, I think there's also... Yes, there's a super tight upper thigh swivel. It's kind of hidden by other plastic parts. But yeah, that's really tight. I'm not going to use that because, yeah, I will snap my figure in half. I'm like a bull in a china shop. As evidenced by my throwing figures around today. Yeah, so this guy's awesome. Aside from the very, very evident G1 homaging that's happening right here, this guy couldn't be cooler. He is a really interesting way to take the movie Prime design and kind of like mesh it with the original Optimus Prime design from G1. That's just a really nice kind of nod to the older fans. Part of me thought that I was going to want this in the rusty, movie-accurate colors, and to be perfectly honest, part of me still does want that just for movie accuracy purposes, but I really like the homage. It's just really cool to have this guy sitting on my shelf in his G1 form, and especially how similar they are in size. They look really cool together because it's kind of like a then and now. So really the only complaints I can make is the slight looseness here. It would have been cool if these could straighten out, I guess, but I mean, super straight arms also doesn't look very natural, so I guess having them at a natural angle is not that bad. Really would have liked to see silver paint on the fake smokestacks and these little shoulder bits. That's really about it for complaints for me. Everything else I think is expertly done. The transformation is fun, but still pretty simple. The flipping of parts and the fact that he basically just kind of turns himself inside out is really cool. It's fun to do. It looks a lot trickier than it is. Once you just figure out the exact angle that you have to get this arm at, basically, it's pretty simple. Like, you can very quickly pop it right there and then flip it around and you'll be fine. it looks much more intimidating and daunting and time-consuming than it actually ends up being. The head sculpt on this guy is pretty awesome. Let's see if I can get it a little better. I was worried that it was going to be super mushy when I first saw pictures of it, just because, you know, silver paint, all that, but they did a pretty good job at having it retain a lot of its detail, and it definitely still looks like Prime. For G1 accuracy purposes, I would have liked if they went with the faceplate, which I think the like Platinum versus Grimlock pack, and there's like an Evolution pack or something, I don't know. I don't do any of those store exclusive pack nonsense things, so I don't know, but there is 1 or 2 different packs that are coming with the faceplate version of this figure, but they also have chrome on them, and I cannot stand chrome. I will... Gotta run, guys! No, I'm just kidding, I'm not a Power Ranger. But anyway, yeah, there's not really that much left to say. He's a really awesome figure. If you want the super duper paint, you can go with the Takara version, obviously. Like I said, it's got some more intricate paint details. I really like the fact that the simpler paint really matches the simpler paint job of the G1 figure. Maybe it was just Hasbro being lazy and trying to cut costs, but it seems like... Whoa, it seems too perfect how close they got it, so I'm pretty sure it was intentional. The only thing that's really missing is the silver stripe here, so whatever. I think you guys should get this figure. I think you should have at least one version of this mold, just because it's a really good mold and it's a really fun little nod to G1 fans everywhere. So, I recommend this. I'm very happy with this. I really, other than the size, the scale issue, and the small little nitpicks that I voiced in this thing, I really don't have any complaints at all about this figure. I think it's fantastic. I think it's awesome that they made it, and I'm very happy to have it. And I think you guys will be too. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time for probably, I think it's a like double feature Grimlock review with both the Leader and the Voyager, and super duper Grimlock, hooray. See you then. This is just a quick epilogue for those of you wondering about weapon storage for the shotgun with Megatron in his vehicle form. Basically, this pig is the same size as the MechTech ports, so while there's not really specifically anywhere great to keep this, you can peg it into either of these side wheels, although it is really tight, and I don't particularly want to stress those out. You can plug it into the top here, although again, it's very tight, so I don't want to totally stress it out. You can plug it into the side arms here, but it does lift the truck up a tad bit, so it doesn't totally touch the ground on that side, but you won't be able to see it from the other side if you're into that kind of display option. And you can also use either tab to attach it to the top of the truck, either that way, if you so choose, or that way, if you so choose. Yep, so that is weapon storage for Megatron.